Hi, I'm your host, Nicolas Bernhardi, and we are here in Paris for LF Energy Summit. And today we have with us Nicolas Bernhardi, business developer of Datahub at Energinet. Nicolas, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
I want to start with Energinet. What does the company do?
So Energinet is the Danish transmission grid operator. We are doing both electricity and gas, but one of our main goals is also doing green transition. We're a state-owned company doing green transition in Denmark, supporting green transition in Denmark, and at the same time being the transmission grid operator.
Can you define what do you mean by green transformation?
Well, it's a lot of different things. It's a lot about setting data free. So we have a lot of energy system data, but we also have consumer data. So it's about setting data free. But it is also about integrating renewable energy sources that come to the grid. This is our task, to integrate renewable energy and stabilize the grid. So we support green transition in Denmark on a broad, in a broad way.
How you've seen the whole evolution in the space, and how once again you folks are evolving to adopt that?
Well, it's like the consumers are getting producers as well, and what we need in the future are more flexible consumers. And as we see it, flexibility is very important for us, but it is very difficult to achieve consumer flexibility, because you need signals. You need to know, okay, when to shut down something, when to turn on some things, and we see data can help a lot on getting this flexibility without interrupting like everyday normal life in an inconvenient way. So this is why we are setting data free on the one side. So the idea is pretty much, by us setting data free, that others can build their solutions on top of it, but at the same time we also develop our own solutions, but still having open systems so others can interact. Because in the end, energy transition is about kind of everyone doing something in this field.
And as when I was introducing you, you're a business developer at Datahub. Talk a bit about this department.
Yeah, the Datahub, we started back in 2013. And the idea was pretty much when smart meters were rolled out in Denmark, that somebody would need to collect all the electricity metering data, and at the same time liberalization of the energy markets was a topic. So the question was, okay, who's going to do the market settlement? Who's going to collect the data? Who's doing the energy bills? And how do we connect energy service providers and consumers? And how do we get the billing up and running in Denmark? And this is how Datahub started. So what we do is we collect all electricity metering data from Denmark, both production and consumption. We have 3.5 million smart meters in Denmark, and hourly data on all of these. And historically seen, we did the market settlement. But if you have these data at hand, you can of course also do a lot of other things. And this is our main task as business developers, is to figure out, okay, how can we set these data free? What can we do with these data? How can we support green businesses and bring energy data to life out in the society? If
you look at energy sector, you folks are going through your own digital transformation. It's not just the rest of the world is going through. So can you also talk about where are you in your own journey, how far ahead you are, and how it's aligned with the movement in the market?
Well, it's I think in Europe we could say we are quite far ahead. This is at least what we also are hearing. And of course, there's always something to do with these data. As I said, like we started on energy billing. Now we're 10 years later. We are trying to set data free, but still we can do things better. And still we've got the same challenges as everybody else. So the one thing is collecting the data. The other thing is how to summarize the data so it makes sense for users to use them. But also it is about simple things like logins. So we would love to see, for example, a pan-European login system. So everybody from other countries also could log in and probably ask for getting access to data, things like that. So still there are also things that we are struggling with and where we need some development. But I think this is pretty much what all TSOs have to go through, and everybody who's working with energy data has the same challenges in a way.
And when you look at data itself has no value. It's the value you extract from the data. And nowadays we are also talking about leveraging a lot of AI, ML also there. So can you also talk about what kind of work is going on in that space?
Yeah, data has no value, but by setting data free, we kind of use the data in order to bring value to other products. So what we're doing on granular certificates, for example, is the idea to establish a certification system for green electricity on an hourly basis, and the idea is pretty much to transfer the green value of green electricity from the production to the end consumer, without any space for greenwashing, without anybody saying like, okay, I didn't use that energy at the same point of time. We make sure that it was possible to transport the energy to the location where it was used. So this is pretty much about kind of setting a value on green energy by using data. The data as such, has no value so far, but it's also a question on like where do you put the value? So is it the data or is it the green electricity that actually is the value?
By setting data free, others can build on top, leverage that data intelligently to build solutions and extract more value from the data.
Yes. Exactly.
Now let's talk about open source, because we are here at Open Source Summit. We're talking about you folks also release some code into open source and it's on GitHub. Talk about that project, Origin.
We have a bunch of different projects running, all focused on the system on granular certificates. So the one part is building a platform that makes it possible for consumers to see the granular certificates, for producers to send their granular certificates to somebody else. So this is pretty much a Danish market platform, or a Danish platform where end users can see which certificates were issued to them. Then we have another collaboration together with other TSOs from Europe, where we mostly talk about, okay, how can we develop this on a European basis? So this is pretty much about standardization and also figuring out the loopholes. So we are having a very unique setup in Denmark, having the data hub, having all the data at hand. If you look at other countries, for example, Germany, where we have 4 TSOs, where there's no data hub-alike system, how could you set this setup in place? And the last thing, which is the open source project, actually, is called Project Origin. And the idea here is that when we issue all these certificates, we have a lot of data. So if we're talking about hourly certificates, we have 8,760 data certificates per year per metering point. And that is a lot of data. And if we want to track and trace how these certificates move, we need to figure out how to do this, especially when we want to scale this on a European level. So Project Origin is about building a registry that makes it possible to track these certificates, and also to make it possible to interact with other registries. So the idea is, in the end, having a network of different registries that are set up on a common standard in order to be able to talk to each other, and still keeping energy data private, because this is also very important, since we are talking about single certificates per consumer. It's in the end energy data which has to be kept private, but at the same time we need to make sure that you have a unique claim on the certificates you got, and the certificates you matched and you bought, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to put all this on a blockchain. We are using Merkle proofs, we are using Peterson commitments in order to limit the amount of data that has to be written to the blockchain, and at the same time still making sure that everything can be trusted, and at the same time that every registry can talk to each other.
Can you talk about why you decided to release these projects into open source?
Well, there are different aspects in it. So of course the Danish TSO is a pretty big company, and we have many employees, but still it is always great to get some help from somewhere else, and especially when we are talking about things like blockchain and these sorts of technologies. These are very new. There are only a few specialists out there. So of course it is great to get some help. On the other hand, we see this pretty much as a system that should be developed by multiple TSOs or probably other parties out there. So it's also an invite to contribute to what we are doing, and the last thing is pretty much that we also need other expertise, and we also can see the system probably live in other domains. So currently we are talking about energy certificates, but probably you would like to have some claims on other products in the future. Probably other companies out there have some great ideas in order to set up such a system because they have some other use cases. So here we are also keen to get some inputs and see how this code is going to live out there.
As you folks put the code base, on GitHub, if I'm not wrong, like a couple of months or a year ago. Talk about what kind of community you have already seen that is building around the project.
Currently there are 3 to 4 companies out there. We're having our partner TSO from Belgium and Germany, Elia Group, who are contributing, but there are also some commercial companies that are already contributing to it because they have the expertise in blockchain and these things. So there is a community. It's still quite small, but there is space to grow.
As you were earlier talking about, that sometimes a lot of projects, what happen is that you create a project which is solving your own problem internally, but when you put out there as open source, a lot of folks come and start using where you did not even think. What do you see of the scope of the project that can go beyond what you were thinking when you see other players using it?
Well, I think there are a lot of different things it could be used for. So far, I'm not quite sure where it's going to end, but probably it's going to be used for tracking some production parts, for example. Probably it could be used for tracking some special products. I don't know. But there are many appliances where you could actually use it in the end.
And as we are talking about the kernel, it was created with solving one specific problem, but now folks are using Kubernetes is a good example too. So can you also talk about when you look at project origin as well, that hey, initially it was created to solve one problem, but it can be used in so many use cases?
Yeah, so in the end, it is about value chain tracking. So every time when you have a value chain of some sort of product, then it would be possible to track this product throughout the value chain. So there are many appliances where you in the end could use it. Either could it be products, it could be energy, it could be water, it could be whatever you can think of. What Project Origin is pretty much about is we're having the idea and the system of granular certificates where we do a lot of conceptual development and conceptual talks. Project Origin is pretty much the engine that lies below these ideas and actually makes it happen in the end from a source code perspective. So when we talk about granular certificates, we need a very solid engine that makes it possible to track and trace all these certificates, and this is why we are developing Project Origin.
When we look at energy sector, a lot of different industries, sometimes there are a lot of close collaboration, and sometimes it's like the players are so diverse they don't collaborate. So, but the organizations like LF Energy or these events, they bring a lot of players together. So talk about the role that you have seen of foundations and these events in bringing a lot of stakeholder constituents together to collaborate.
Well, I think LFLNG is a very good example for bringing two things together, because it's about energy and it is about open source projects. And I think the entire sector of energy is currently still very focused on themselves and doing their systems on their own. But in the end, we're all doing the same things throughout Europe. So when we're talking about transmission system operators, we have the same tasks to solve. Normally, we're also financed through public money. So it's the consumers who pay for our work. And if we join forces and we in the end can develop common systems that can be used in different countries, I think that is great. And potentially also saves a lot of money.
Nicolas, thank you so much for taking time out today, and of course talk about Project Origin, the company itself, and the role of open source and a foundation like Elevon Energy. And I would love to chat with you again soon as you folks release more projects into open source or to get update on Project Origin. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.